Hopefully you saw my Dual Nano Gaming Beast build a few weeks ago, and if you didn't, shame on you. Go and check it out right now. There were a few really cool components featured in that build, and one such component that really deserves its own review is the nifty little Gigabyte Z170 MX Gaming 5. With around a dozen Micro ATX Z170 motherboards to pick from, you might be wondering what made this Gigabyte board stand out to me. Gigabyte offers just two Micro ATX Z170 motherboards, the Z170 MX Gaming 5 and the cheaper Z170M D3H. Priced at $150 US or 260 AUD, the Gaming 5 board costs a bit more, around 30% more in fact. For that money you get USB 3.1, optical audio out, a much better onboard audio solution, and a better board design for multi-GPUs, which was a key selling point for the Dual Nano build. Looking further abroad, we find limited competition for the Gaming 5. The closest thing is the Asus Z170M D3. But at $125 it's a good bit cheaper, but it's also very much an inferior product in almost every regard. Meanwhile, the flagship offering from Asus cracks the $200 barrier at a whopping $220 US or a hard to swallow 360 Australian dollars. For that price, you get a board with many of the same or equivalent features, so you start to see why we went with the Gigabyte Z170 MX Gaming 5. Out of the box, all motherboards donning the Z170 chipset will have 6 SATA 6GB per second ports, at least half a dozen USB 3 ports as the chipset supports up to 10, dual PCIe x16 slots, gigabit Ethernet, and some kind of HD audio. Additionally, there's an M2 port that can accommodate up to 80mm long SSDs, offering the full PCIe 3.0x4 bandwidth. Included in the package are 4 very cool looking silver SATA cables, and these are a nice touch that give the board a very premium look. For those wondering, these can be purchased separately online from places such as eBay, though expect to pay a bit more than the traditional red or black cables. In total, there are 7 USB 3 ports on offer, 3 of which are found in the back panel. However, Gigabyte has bolstered their package with a pair of USB 3.1 ports, which includes a Type A and Type C port on the I/O panel. Not just that, but through the use of Intel's USB IF certified controller, this board is also Thunderbolt ready too. Upgraded from the more standard dual PCIe x16 slot configuration are 3 PCIe x16 slots, but of course just the primary slot is wired for the full x16 bandwidth, which will be offered when using a single graphics card. The second slot is hardwired for x8 bandwidth, and when using SLI or Crossfire, both the primary and secondary cards will run at x8 bandwidth, which has no negative impact on performance. Finally, the third PCIe x16 slot is wired for x4 bandwidth, and assuming you can use 2 dual slot graphics cards, it won't be accessible anyway. A key feature of the Z170 MX Gaming 5 is the Realtek ALC1150 audio codec, which has been spiced up using the Sound Blaster X-Fi MB3 software suite. Also included is a Texas Instruments Burr Brown operational amplifier, along with a high quality audio capacitors and audio noise guard with fancy LED trace path lighting. The killer E2201 Gigabit Ethernet controller is a decent solution, but I would have been just as happy with the Intel Gigabit LAN found on the cheaper D3H, so I don't see this as a noteworthy upgrade. Still, that isn't to say others won't find extra value in the killer network controller. So there you have it. Features wise, the Gigabyte Z170 MX Gaming 5 is well equipped with high quality parts. The board itself also looks great, even if it is another black and red themed board. The layout is excellent, and this is important for a compact micro ATX board. The only disappointing aspect of the design is a lack of useful buttons for enthusiasts, such as a power and reset button, along with a CMOS clear button, and an LED diagnostic display would have been a nice touch. Still, given the price and Gigabyte's focus on features such as the USB DACs for stable voltage, being Thunderbolt ready, and all those quality audio features, we can forgive them for excluding these onboard buttons. When it comes to benchmarking, we aren't going to waste your time by comparing the Z170 MX Gaming 5's memory, application, gaming, or even storage performance with other Z170 or any other Intel 100 series motherboards for that matter. Rather, let's take a brief look at the overclocking performance and features. Recently, I've mostly been using ASRock, Asus, and MSI motherboards, all of which have great UEFIs. And while I would say Gigabyte's version on the Z170 MX Gaming 5 is just as good, it did take some getting used to the menu system. There are plenty of customizable options, but working out where they all live is a bit tricky at first. Where I'm used to ASRock and Asus's OC tweaker type menus, where all the overclocking related options are under the one roof, Gigabyte splits things like CPU, memory and voltage options across separate menus, which I have to admit makes things a little tricky. Making the overclock a little more difficult was the fact that I only had on hand a Core i5 6600K processor that I bought a few days prior to testing, so I haven't yet worked out its own limits. Therefore, I started with Gigabyte's performance upgrade feature to see how easy it would be for novice users to extract extra performance from their system. Frequencies ranging from 4.2 GHz up to 4.6 GHz are available. Unfortunately, my 6600K chip wasn't stable using the highest option, and I had to settle for the 4.5 GHz setting, which is almost a 30% increase over the base clock and 15% higher than the max turbo clock. Based on user overclocking reports for the 6600K, most seem to reach at least 4.5 GHz, with the ceiling being around 4.6 to 4.8 GHz. At 4.5 GHz, the CPU temperature never went above 55 degrees when placed under full load, and we were using the Thermaltake Water 3.0 Ring RGB 240 all-in-one liquid cooler. Unfortunately, no matter how much messing around with voltages and other tweakable settings, I wasn't able to get the Z170MX Gaming 5 and my new 6600K stable at over 4.5 GHz. Even with a V-core of 1.4, which was disappointing. Other tweakable settings such as the extreme memory profile worked well, and we had no trouble loading the more aggressive profile in our Kingston HyperX Savage DDR4 3000 memory. In my opinion, the Gigabyte Z170MX Gaming 5 offers the perfect balance of features and price. Probably the best of any Micro ATX Z170 motherboard available today. Announced late last year, it's a relative newcomer, and if I was shopping for a Micro ATX Z170 motherboard for a gaming rig, it would certainly be my number one choice. When compared to similarly priced boards such as the ASRock Z170M Extreme 4 and ASUS Z170M Plus, the Gigabyte Z170MX Gaming 5 is without a question better overall package. Gigabyte offers a better audio solution and what is arguably a better network controller for gaming, though I'm very much on the fence about that one. The Z170MX Gaming 5 also does pack a better power delivery design, which means you should achieve higher overclocks, though I of course lucked out here. Overall, it's my opinion that the Gigabyte board is of a higher quality as well, which for me further helps to justify the slight price premium. Honestly, I have to say I'm a little surprised by the price, particularly given how much ASUS is asking for their ROG Maximus 8G, which for the most part isn't a superior board. Certainly not to the extent that the 40% price premium could be justified. Overall, Gigabyte has put together a very solid package with the Z170MX Gaming 5, and I expect it will satisfy any gamer hoping to build a compact Micro ATX gaming machine. As always, I'm your host Matt, and thanks for checking out the Gigabyte Z170MX Gaming 5 with me. Also remember, you can check out the written version of this review and all of our other reviews at our website, hardwareunboxed.com. Have a great day, and I'll see you next time when I overclock or lean on my 6700K so hard it gives up its offshore accounts.